Hi, my name's Nick Ellis with PC Computer Guy, and we're going to be talking about installing Teamviewer, a remote access program. What this program does is it allows you to remote into a computer as if you were sitting in front of it. So you'll be able to use your keyboard, mouse, see all the icons, and do everything that you would do at work, but you'll be able to do it from your house or wherever it's convenient for you. This is particularly useful, and the reason why we're recording this is we're in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, and there's a lot of talk about telecommuting, doing work from home, and so we thought it might be a good time to teach you how to get that set up. It's actually pretty easy to do. Teamviewer is free for non-commercial use, so you can get it installed on your computers. In this example, I'm going to use an example of somebody remoting into a work computer from your house. So let's get started. It's pretty easy. First, we're going to open up our browser and we're going to download Teamviewer. So Teamviewer, we'll just search for Teamviewer, do a Google search for that. And we've got Teamviewer here. Make sure you're at the right site, teamviewer.com. A lot of ways people get scammed and download things that they didn't intend to is there might be a slight typo, like you might have had 2 R's at the end of it or something. And the bad guys, what they do is they buy those domains and then you think you're downloading the real Teamviewer, but you're not. So be careful with things like that. That applies to anything in general. So we're at the Teamviewer site here. We're going to say download for free. And this will go pretty quickly. With Chrome, the download's going to be down here. I'm going to open it up, run it. And then this is pretty important that we get these steps right. It's really easy. How do we want to use it? Default or custom with unattended access support. This is what we want. By checking this option here, it means that Teamviewer will start automatically when the computer comes on. So if there's a power outage and then the computer comes back on, or whatever's going on, it'll continuously be running in the background so that you can hop into your computer whenever you want. If you don't set it up with this unattended access support, then you might find that you can't get in because Teamviewer is not running on the computer that you want to connect into. So then you would have to call somebody at the office and have them open it for you, and it's kind of a pain. So this is really the one that you want. And then how do we want to use it? In this situation, we're going to say personal non-commercial use. Accept and finish. Doesn't really get easier than that in terms of installing a program. Right? We just had one window. So this is installing the Teamviewer. And this needs to be done both on the host and client. So what that means is on the computer going to be remoting into and the computer you're remoting from. The one that you're remoting from, say for example at home, you don't need to set up the unattended access. You can just leave that default installation option because you don't need to dial into it. You just need to open it when you want to use it. But the computer that is hosting, the one that you're connecting into, needs to have it running all the time. So set up the unattended access here. We're going to say next. You can name it whatever you want. We'll say work PC as an example. Password. Now this is one of those situations where I really want you to take the time to use a good strong password and not a password that you've used on other websites. What happens is companies, they might have their database get hijacked or breached or whatever, and then usernames and passwords from that database end up on the dark web. So let's say, for example, my website, if I had users sign up through my website and my website got hacked and they got all the usernames and passwords, well, they know that people are going to use the same usernames and passwords on many different sites. And so this is why I don't want you to use the same password. This one is particularly important because if somebody gets into your Facebook account, they might send a few messages, but it's not that bad. But if somebody gets into your work computer and has access to all the files, potentially bank accounts and all of that, it could be pretty disastrous. So you want to make sure that you use a good, strong password that you don't use anywhere else. Incidentally, a side note for that, passphrases are typically better than passwords. They're stronger and easier for people to remember. So, if you have a phrase in mind, you can use that instead of a password. So we're just going to enter something here and hit next. Creating a Teamviewer account. I don't really care to create the Teamviewer account myself personally. All you need to know is the ID, which we'll see here in just a moment. And if you keep track of that, then you don't need to create the account. You can if you want to. It's up to you. I'm going to say I don't want to create an account right now. It's not necessary. And then here, this is the key. This is our ID. The ID is essentially like the phone number that you're going to be using to dial into. So, your work has a telephone, for example, and if you want to call work, you call the work phone number. Well, your computer at work has a, quote, phone number or an ID. So this is what you will need to connect into the work computer. So make sure you keep that information somewhere that you can access it when you're at home. Hit finish here. That's it. All right, so we've got TeamViewer set up on your host computer, your work computer in our example here. Now you want to get TeamViewer on your home computer, the one that you're connecting from. I don't really need to run through the installation for that because it's pretty much the same as the one that we already saw for setting it up on the office computer, with the exception of it's actually easier. You don't need to set up the unattended access. You can skip that part and just do the default installation. The reason why you can skip that is because you don't need to be dialing into your home computer. You're dialing out from your home computer to your work computer. So it doesn't need to be necessarily set up so that people can connect into it. If you want to, you can do that, but it's not necessary. So we don't really need to review that. That's pretty easy. This right here is something called Linux. It's not Windows, but that doesn't have any bearing on setting up and using TeamViewer. It works the same. So I'm going to search for TeamViewer in here, and I'm going to open it up. So I already have TeamViewer installed on this system. Again, this would be like your home computer. And remember I said it was really important that we remember the ID of the computer we're connecting into, your work computer. So that I already have it typed in here, but this is where you type it in. This side right here is if you wanted to receive an incoming connection to your home computer, which we're not concerned with. So really you only need to focus on this right-hand side, control remote computer. So you'd put in the ID, like the phone number, right? The place that you're dialing to, and just simply hit connect. Once it's connected, we're going to type in our password. Remember I said that's where you need to enter a good, strong password. So we'll put in our password here, and just like magic, bada bing, bada boom, we can now see everything on our remote computer, the office computer. So if you had email stuff, all of that, if you had particular files or anything like that, you can get to everything. And it's just like you're sitting in front of your office computer, but you're doing it from home. Couple things, other things that I want to show you here. If you need to disconnect, once you want to disconnect the session, you would click this guy right here. That's how you would disconnect. This right here, send, control, delete. If you just do control delete on your keyboard, and sometimes this is necessary in offices to log off or whatever. If you do control delete on your keyboard at home, the computer's not, or TeamViewer is not going to know, do you intend for that to be on the home computer or on the remote computer? So just to make sure that it's clear, you could just do this option instead. So we can hit this send, control delete, and then we'll get those options right here. I'm going to hit cancel for this. Let's see what other things might be particularly useful. Remote reboot. That's nice. If you set up TeamViewer as I showed you, once the computer restarts, TeamViewer will automatically reopen, so you'll be able to connect back in. View here, I don't think there's really anything we need to mess with that. You can do the full screen, switch to full screen right here. So we'll do that. And now you wouldn't see anything on your home computer. It would just be everything on your work computer. That might be particularly nice to do because I've noticed sometimes people get confused. You know, you have your taskbar down here with all of your programs. Well, especially if you're on Windows and then you're remoted into a Windows computer, what you would end up with is two taskbars. You know, here's the Linux one, but you would have a Windows one here that would be your home computer, and then you'd have another one here that would be your work computer, and it could get confusing for people. So if you just simply put it in full screen mode, now everything is the remote computer, the office computer, and that sometimes makes things a little bit easier. If you want to move files back and forth, this right here, open file transfer. So you got your work computer over here, your home computer, and you can take files like this and you can just drag them and drop them from this side to this side, or hit the arrow here. May not necessarily need to do much of that. The main thing is you can get to the screen and see everything as if you're at work. But you can move files back and forth with this utility as well. So that's really nice. If there's dual screens, this right here is what this icon's for. So your work computer, if you had two screens, to see those different screens or switch back and forth, this would be the option for that. But that's pretty much it. So hopefully this is helpful to you. Really easy. You can do it in just a matter of a couple minutes. And then, especially like I said, with all this pandemic coronavirus going on right now, this is a way for you to work from home and protect yourself and your family a little bit.